guys, little update for you. What I did, so we didn't have horse manure just showing the neighborhood. As people walked by, a couple of the neighbors were saying, oh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, it's horse manure. And you don't really want your dog to go up and start smelling and rolling in horse manure while you're walking down the street, and it's not very nice for a neighbor to put horse manure out without at least putting something over it. So what I did was get some straw. This is year-old straw that we used, and we actually started decomposing it. We started composting it because we put mycelium in it. So the mycelium inoculant that we put in it to grow some mushrooms over the winter worked out pretty well. And after the mushrooms decided to eat all the substrate and to propagate themselves the max amount that they could possibly propagate themselves, we then had a substrate that was used entirely for mushroom production and broken down, and then we decided to use it for our vegetables and as a mulch in our garden. That's the next stage, the next succession. If you have a straw bale and you try to inoculate it with mushrooms, that's what comes after. So you don't just throw these things away, guys. You don't send them to the landfill, you use them. And this is how we use them to our advantage. We can do things like cover any kind of nitrogen source that we have in the soil that we're trying to create fertility. So if you use kitchen scraps, you can cover it with carbon, and that's all this is just decomposed carbon. We used mushroom to break it down a little more than it was naturally. So it's not like a full decomposition, it's not compost just yet, but it's partially broken down. It's almost like a medium horse manure. When you get horse manure and it's been left out in the field for like at a corner of a property for 6 months in a pile, 3 to 6 months, that's pretty much the equivalent of what we've got here. So I just decided to use this as a nutrition source and put it over the top of the manure that I put down. And if all goes well and this works out the way I expect it to, this is going to be lush and wonderful in a matter of weeks. It will take a little time, it's going to take weeks, but this is going to be so much healthier than what you see down there or over there or across the street. This is going to be full, very lush, very healthy, because we're adding organics and we've aerated it. So you don't see it now. When it rains, the interstitial spaces fill in on top. So it looks like it's still, it's all together and it's basically back to the way it was. But underneath the soil, when we used the fork and we pulled back, we created lots of air gaps in there. And those interstitial spaces that we created are going to be oxygenating the soil. And that's where it's at, guys. Like, I did a video, an update last week, and I showed you the putting down of the organic material, the horse manure. But I didn't show you the covering it up, because if you're in an HOA, you can't just leave it. You can't leave horse manure out on the side of the road for people to walk by and their dogs to roll in and smell, and it's not sanitary for one because there's pathogens that are in those. So this is a way of covering that up. As long as it hasn't gone anaerobic, it's not a big deal. So this is fresh horse manure. It has not been contained in an environment that was lacking oxygen. So it was not breeding pathogens. This is healthy manure. This is good. This is what we need. This is like a horse that was grazing the land and decided to just drop manure. And that's what we want. We want that for our fertility, for our grass, because that's what grass needs. That's how we maintain the Great Plains, the buffaloes. When we got rid of the buffaloes, we had a situation where it turned into the Great Dust Bowl. If you want soil to turn into dust, then you just eliminate the organics, but that's not what we're doing here. Here we're adding organics because we want the grass, we want fertility, we want health, and we want the cyanobacteria to get out of here. That's the goal. All right, guys? So this is Tom with Permaculture Wilmington. Hope you're having a great day. Take care.